Greetings and good day everyone. Today we are going to discuss about Malaysian electoral system as parliament democracy state. Yang di-Pertuan Agong manages Malaysia democratic system as the king. The Federal Constitution implemented this system. Malaysia Federal Constitution has three parts of the government: legislative, juristic and executive. Each of the statements involved has handed over some of its capabilities to the administrated by the central government. Few matters will be the under state's authority and each of those states will come out. An election is a common way to choose a leader by voters in a democratic country. It means a way for people to vote to elect their representative. Elections are to maintain leaders with the support of their voters. An election allows a person to serve the country and the people, while the voter would like to see the specific part has done some work. The opportunity to make this choice should not be squandered. The content of the leadership to propel the democratic system elections are also a benchmark for the success or failure of democracy. The system of democracy itself shows that it is a mechanism for institution of recognition for rights and freedom. The Election Commission (EC) under the Article 114 of Malaysia Federal is in charge of election process. Objective and the scope of discussion. This conference focused on the types of progress of election, the produce requirements, voters and candidates. The objective of the assignment are to explain election and types in Malaysia, to explain the procedures and requirement, voters and candidates, to provide detailed information to related to the election process and discuss how the election process in Malaysia. Types of election. Malaysia adopts a simple system in which a person has won an election when he wins the majority of the votes despite a one vote advantage. There are two types of election in Malaysia: general election and small election. General election. A general election takes place every 5 years once to choose the member of the House representative. At the same time, the party that has a group of members gets the opportunity to form a party and rule the country. Small election. The small election takes on an emergency, like there is a member of the party's dead and if there is a vacancy of seats in any parliament or state assembly. The vacancy may be due to some issues such as death, resignation and discarment. The Malaysian election process. The keeper of the roll seals gives out a ballot paper and candidate name. The ruler needs to write down whether the candidate is rightful for the position or not by the Yang di-Pertuan Agong. The candidate must obtain a majority of 5 votes before the ruler presiding over the election meeting offers him the office of Yang di-Pertuan Agong. Election of this majestic Yang di-Pertuan. Suppose the nomination declines, the offer or nominated ruler fails to obtain the required majority votes, the voting process was done again by nominating the next senior ruler in the seniority list of ruler. The process is completed only after the ruler has accepted the offer of the office of the Yang di-Pertuan Agong. The conference then declares the ruler and the Yang di-Pertuan Agong to hold office for 5 years. The system FPTP. Malaysia election system follows the first past and the post system, and candidates are given a choice to have parties or independent. Voters vote for one candidate only and the candidates with the highest numbers of votes wins the seat. The winner does not have to win more than half the votes, meaning that first past the post is a plurality system. FPTP is a plurality or majority electoral system categorized by its simplicity and the tendency to produce representative beyond to defined geographies areas. FPTP provides a clear-cut choice for the voters between two main parties, however, faced with third and flagrant minority parties. Under FPTP, the system may gravitate towards a party of the left and a right party, alternating in power. Third parties often withdraw away and almost rarely a threshold of popular support, where their national vote achieves a comparable percentage of seats in legislature. It gives rise to the single-party government. International law. The law of election. Three main acts govern the law of election in Malaysia. Act 19 Election, Act 1958, Act 31 Election Commission, Act 1957, Act 5 Election Offence, Act 1954. Election Commission will be enforcing the law in overseeing the smooth running of the election. Qualification. The eligibility criteria for the appointment of a ruler as the Yang di-Pertuan Agong by the Conference of Ruler are as follow. Only a ruler may be elected if he is concerned to be elected. Only the rulers are allowed to vote. If a ruler is unable to attend the election meeting, he may appoint another ruler as a proxy to cast his vote. Usually, this election follows an order based on the seniority of each ruler in the term of length of regime. This ruler is no longer applies after all the state rulers has taken their turns as the Yang di-Pertuan Agong. The first cycle ended with the appointment of His Royal Highness the Sultan of Perak as the Yang di-Pertuan Agong. A newly constructed list is currently in place based on the state seniority whose ruler has held the office of Yang di-Pertuan Agong, following the third schedule of the Federal Constitution. Steps before election. A date for the election meeting has to be set forehand. If there is a availability of the date, Yang di-Pertuan Agong and the Timbalan Yang di-Pertuan Agong, the election will be carried out 4 weeks from the date given, and the keeper of the ruler's seal shall seek the consent of each ruler to be nominated for election as Yang di-Pertuan Agong and the Timbalan Yang di-Pertuan Agong. Election proceeding. When the conference of the ruler convenes to the select Yang di-Pertuan Agong and the Timbalan Yang di-Pertuan Agong, Yang di-Pertuan Negeri shall not be present. However, they are members of the conference. The election is carried out by the secret ballot using unnumbered ballot papers but marked with the same pen and ink. The ballot papers gets into the ballot box. After the election, result has to be announced. The ballot paper are destroyed, burnt or shattered in the presence of the rulers. Election procedures. The ruler with the shortest resign goes to the office of the Yang di-Pertuan Agong or the Timbalan Yang di-Pertuan Agong, who is appointed to count the ballot paper together with the keeper of the ruler's seal. In the election meeting, only the ruler, the keeper of the ruler's seal, and the assistant secretary to the conference of the ruler are involved in the election process. Post-election. After Yang di-Pertuan Agong and the Timbalan Yang di-Pertuan Agong election, the keeper of the ruler's seal will make known the result of the poll in writing to the Senate and the House of Representatives and the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister will then issue a press release on the result of election of Yang di-Pertuan Agong and the Timbalan Yang di-Pertuan Agong, who may only carry out their official function after signing the oaths of office in a ceremony before the conference of ruler in the presence of the Chief Justice of Federal Court, with two rulers appointed by the conference of rulers signing as witness. Oaths of office of Yang di-Pertuan Agong and the Timbalan Yang di-Pertuan Agong. According to the Article 37, bracket 1 of the Federal Constitution, Yang di-Pertuan Agong will address the oath of office before exercising his function. The committed must be signed before the conference of rule with two rulers as witness and in the presence of Chief Justice of the Federal Court. If the Chief Justice of the Federal Court is unable to attend, the next senior judge of the Federal Court shall take his place. The oath of office must also be signed by the two rulers appointed by the Conference of Rulers. According to the Article 37 bracket 2 of the Federal Constitution, the timbalan yang di-Pertuan Agong shall before exercise its function other than the function exercisable to convey the conference of the ruler take the subscribe to the oath of office. The promise of the office must be signed before the conference ruler and in the presence of Chief Justice of the Federal Court. If Chief Justice of the Federal Court is unable to attend, the next senior judge of the Federal Court shall take his place. Malaysia Bill. A bill is proposed legislation under consideration by legislature. An account does not become law until it passed by the legislature and in most cases approved by the executive. Once an act into law, it is called an act of legislature or status. In Malaysia, since 1968, with the introduction of Law Revision Act 1968, all acts and bills have to be given sequential numbers in a series of Malaysian laws. For example, the Revision Act itself, it is given the number 1 and so on. In a presidential system, the executive power of concern is used as a political tool, later known as a veto. In such a system, the legislature types has the power to overturn the ban by the supermajority. In a constitutional monarchy, some subjects are protected by royal rights and perhaps the legislature has less power to introduce bills to change them. For example, in Malaysia Constitution, any bill touching on the institution of Sultanate must be approved by the Conference of Rulers. The process of drafting a bill. Relevant ministry formulate policies. The minister prepares a motion bill and sends it to the ordinary general chambers, discussing it with the treasurer and relevant ministry. The ordinary general chamber prepares the draft bill. First reading. Notice of notification of motion to the Secretary of the House of Representatives and the Senator. The ministry read the title. Second, reading the bill debated in the Dewan Rakyat. Examine the importance and impact of the motion on the people. The ministry clarifies any questions. Vote on whether to accept or reject the law by the House of Representatives. Committed law. Revise each page, schedule and guidelines in the detail. Make appropriate amendments. Third reading. Read in the Dewan Rakyat and Dewan Negara. Submitted for approval. Gets a majority vote to pass an act. Finally, the YDPA approved it within 30 days. If it's not approved, the bill will become law following Article 66, page 4.
Able to track the ballot paper back to the voter. Next, I will continue for candidates part. Candidate is the one who become a member of parliament or state assembly. So the criteria of candidates. First, for House of Representative elections, the requirements needed is a Malaysian citizen and resident in the Federation, clause Article 47 of the Federal Constitution at the time of nomination. Second, be not less than 21 years old on the candidate's nomination day. Second, for state legislative assembly elections, requirements needed is a Malaysian citizen and resident in the state where he wishes to contest. Second, be not less than 21 years old on the candidate's nomination day. Next, candidate can be disqualified when he or she found or confirmed to be of unsound mind. Second, a bankrupt who has not yet passed away. And last but not least, someone who holds an earning position. So for the privilege for a candidate on voting day, candidates are allowed to visit the following places, which are polling place, counting of votes. Second, the center counts votes centrally and in groups. Third, postal ballot production, opening and counter centers. Fourth, official ballot counting center. And we will go through for deposit. Here, deposit means someone who wants to take part in an election needs to settle a deposit first. So for parliamentary election, 10,000 ringgit deposit is needed, and for state assembly election, 5,000 ringgit deposit is needed. Managing officer has the power not to accept the nomination paper if there is no deposit. Thank you.
Issues about election in Malaysia and suggestion for improvement. Every election held in Malaysia has issues and suggestion for improvement by Election Commission. As a duplicate, there is a lack transparency from the authorized in managing election due to the influence or pressure from the governmental political party. Below are the issues about election and rooms for improvement. Ghost voters. Ghost voter is a political term for people who cast their votes at the polling station by using fake identity card in the name of other voters registered in EC Electoral roll. Such fraud and imposition is an offence under the Election Offence Act 1954 and is punishable by imprisonment or not less than 2 years or a fine or not more than 5,000 or both. Example of illegal ghost voters. The voter is over 120 years old. Voter's address homes contains more than 20 people. The voters has nothing to do with the voter's registered address owner. The same voter is registered more than once. This happens among military voters who are postal voters and regular voters. In ECC state that they might be only deduct a voter's identity if they have proof and cannot accept oral knowledge. As a result, unless theirs disclose the death certificate or other formal documentation, the name of the people who died will stay on the list. As a result, a vote age of more than 120 years is not evidence of a ghost voter. The AC also requires the ability to create a new electoral register and dispose of one old regular, including those who have died. In this case, the SSR requests that the next of kin who are aware that a relative has died to send a copy of the individual death certificate or burial permission so that EC can conduct a review. Issues of amendment. The voting age limited is 18 years. Regulation 2021 and the Election Regulation 2021, the EC informed that Section 3 bracket A and bracket B of Constitution Amended Act 2019 concerning the amendment of eligible voter age of 18 years and voter registration on December 1st, 2021. SPU bracket B 615/2021, which will come into effect on December 15, 2021. After obtaining the consent of His Majesty the Yang di-Pertuan Agong. On November 25, the amendment has accepted by the Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Rahyuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah, and it needs to be revised again on December 15. Electoral improvement proposal. There are some improvements put forward by public and educational institution and politician to ensure that elections are conducted fairly and transparently. These changes must be implemented immediately to avoid the collapse of democracy based on election elected by the people. It also ensures stable politics for the party that will rule about misconduct or violation in the election. Election participation of the people. The election system must be communicated to all citizens so that they are aware of it and may participate directly and actively in the proposed. Election must be held in conformity with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Bracket 1, Article 21. Everyone has the right to participate in their government country either directly or via representative elected by the people. This country will assist in making the election go more smoothly. The people's support for democratic system operation is in place stable. The improvement for participation people in an election. The electoral process and people's voting power must always be shown to them through the media, which includes the government's Ministration of Information, Malaysia commercial broadcasting business in the nation. Significant newspaper. Between appropriate voter education program which include songs and program that inform the public about the importance of voting, how to vote and why citizens are required to vote. The essence of voter education should be a comedy that informs the public. The right to vote should be taught in the national education system through the Ministry of Education, specifically by designing voter education curriculum in school that integrates civics and nationhood education, so that Malaysian they should have been taught to participate in the country democratic affair from a young age. Votes are secret. Election which shall be a universal and equivalent suffrage and shall be held by secret vote or by equivalent free voting procedures. The EC needs to provide profound and continuous explanation to the people through the mass media and guarantee the secrecy of the vote so that people doubt against their vote is not secret. Your vote is secret. Guarantee posters need to be distributed during the session election. The serial number on the ballot paper shall be omitted, only regained on the ballot paper counterfeit. Case study. 13th General Election, a case study of Kedah, Malaysia. Kedah is a country that has its speciality because most of the voters are voters of Barisan Nasional, while PAS and PKR voters are equal. Therefore, Chinese and Indian votes play the most crucial role in determining the winner. In this paper, we will study the facts of this case, constitutional issues, constitutional law, and the contention of parties' judgment and the reason for the judgment. April 20 was declared a nomination date after receiving a message from EC. Yang di-Pertuan Agong selected Prime Minister Najib Tun Razak from Barisan Nasional for the dissolution of Parliament. During the campaign, several issues such as economic and social, like cheap housing, free education loans for those in need, reduction in water bills, and few more were discussed in the campaign. They also nominated their strongest candidate in Johor and Federal Territory seats. The MCA took some adverse action against DAP by using the newspaper to communicate with the voters, while BN continually shared the ideas of the economic transformation program. Advertisement on the growth of Malaysia under BN was frequently shown in newspaper for voters to read. Hudud laws was another provision that DAP rejected when PAS wanted to implement it into law. It led to an argument between the parties, and BN took the chance to highlight the unity of their opposition party. Electoral corruption was another constitutional provision. SPR accused the EC is helping BN by providing washable ink to the voters. At the same time, the other parties blamed the government for bringing in BOMO and fake voters by airlines to get BN to win. The DE13 was a violent campaign that was against the law. There were 1,200 cases of electrical violence like homemade Molotov cocktails, petrol bombs, matches, knives and threats were reported by police, and a total of 45 were arrested. The ruling coalition used a new way to gain the trust of the voters by performing transparent voting and has stayed away from the corrupt practice. PR supports blame that some foreigners were casting votes for BN, which created issues. EC confirmed that all the listed names are Malaysian and only allowed to cast a vote. The judgment is that most candidates are unknown to the voters. Voters only know 76.3 compared to the parliament candidate 73% because most of them were new to the field. Voters supported Perdana Menteri Dato Sri Muhammad Najib Tun Abdul Razak because of his slogan Satu Malaysia, Rakyat didahulukan. Voters from the Malay community were higher than the others due to their tolerance and wanted to peace and wealth to be shared with other races. Voters also supported BN because they once handed out a sum of money under the name BRIM, which helped the voters lessen their financial burden. The voters wanted this program to be annual and showed their support for BN by voting. At the same time, there were issues from the opposition party about the land demolition of Madrasah Salina in Alusta. The land initially was due to be demolished for the building and developed for supermarkets and other pleasure building activities, which was a massive factor in why voters did not vote for the opposition party.
Conclusion. An election is a general election held to elect representatives in Parliament, the State Legislative Assembly, and so on. Dictionary of the House 4th edition. The Reid Commission was entrusted with drafting the federal constitution during the foundation of independent Malaya, among other things to propose the existence of a federal state based on parliamentary democracy with two tiers of the legislature, bicameral legislature. Finally, the House of Representatives and the Senate were established for this purpose by the federal constitution. Members of the Dewan Rakyat will be elected using an election system that must take place at least 5 years after the Dewan Rakyat was dissolved the last time. Meanwhile, the Reid Commission has suggested just one legislature at the state level. What is evident is that the Reid Commission has concluded that the federal election system is the best vehicle for electing influential legislative leaders. The Reid Commission's method was tested in 1955 when the first election was held. This election system was seen to bring Malaya closer to actual democracy at that. What is evident is that the Reid Commission has come to conclusion that the federal election system is the best vehicle for electing influential legislative leaders. The Reid Commission's method was tested in 1955 when the first election was held. This election system was capable of bringing Malaya closer to actual democracy at that time, with all citizens being allowed to vote. Leaders as a voice represent them in the enactment of national laws.